You're listening to Generation AI
from Live Person.
Hello, Generation AI listeners, and welcome to, believe it or not, Season 3 of the podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Zive, and I am very thrilled to be kicking off another season with even more incredible guests from the worlds of AI and customer experience. So as always, before we get into it, just take a moment and hit the subscribe button, and please leave us a 5-star rating if you haven't done that already. I love hearing from you, and I want to really hear about what more you want to see on the show. Okay, so with that out of the way, it's time to welcome our very special guest. Today, I'll be speaking with Darren DeGiorgio, Director of Client Services at Tiffany & Co. Now, I've gotten to know Darren quite a bit over the last couple of years. Every time we speak, I learn something. I come away even more excited and inspired about what he's doing. And today I'm going to chat with Darren particularly about how he's using messaging and AI to support premium and luxury level experiences. And in fact, the relationship between those two things, luxury and AI, is something that people I find really struggle to reconcile. But Darren is a true expert on this front, and he's got many lessons to share with us about what he's learned over the course of his career. So we're going to jump right in. Welcome, Darren, to Generation AI.
Hi, Ruth, and hi, Generation AI listeners. Thanks so much for having me here today.
It's great to have you. Darren, you bring over 3 decades of experience, driving over $1 billion in sales in several different companies. You've had quite the journey. Maybe share a little bit with our listeners about your career, how you landed at Tiffany, and what you're really focused on today in that role.
Yeah, great question, Ruth, and thanks for reminding me it's been over 3 decades. So my career had a basic start. I mean, perhaps like a lot of kids, I didn't really know what to do, and I ended up working in car insurance, sales, service. You know, it was my real introduction to dealing with customers face to face. I found that I had a good eye for selling, and I enjoyed service as well. It kind of then moved into a space where I realized I didn't want a job. I wanted something that I was passionate about. And fortunately for me, that's where Burberry came along. And I had the best decade with them. It was just so much fun, having the opportunity to pioneer specifically in my space. And pioneering for a brand such as Burberry is the expectation, but it's not always possible to pioneer if you're perhaps in retail or one of the more traditional teams. Whereas for me, in customer service, we all know that customer service in contact centers historically are a cost center, and they are about having a quick conversation with a customer, closing the conversation down and getting on to the next one. And of course, traditionally, contact centers would have been call centers, so it's just a telephone call only. But at Burberry, we had the opportunity to pioneer in messaging. I was very lucky to partner with Live Person about 7-8 years ago. We partnered with Live Person for chats, as they were so commonly called and still are known by some today. And then we delved into messaging, and messaging was just so much fun. Messaging really resonated with me, especially with Apple Business Chat, as it was known. Then following a Live Person event in New York, I had a chance meeting with some people from Tiffany & Company. We had a chat. They explained to me about the position of their contact center. And then a few weeks later on LinkedIn, there was a contact asking in a few more words than this, would I be interested in coming out to the USA to work? And following the usual interview process and very complicated visa process, I found myself out here working for Tiffany & Company for the last 2 years. And the opportunity has been to lead the transformation of their US contact center and I'm stepping into a new role in the new year to do exactly the same for the global team. So Tiffany and Company has contact centers all around the world, and we're looking at bringing them along for the same transformation journey.
So, Darren, it sounds like chat and then messaging really sort of pulled you through your career to new experiences, new technologies, new locations. I've been watching from the sidelines for a couple of years. It's been very exciting to watch. I know that you're very forward thinking, and I'd love for you to zero in a little bit on AI in particular. And, was there a moment when you recognized that this technology was really going to have meaningful impact on your career and the way that you think about contact center transformation?
Okay. For your listeners who are also watching, they would have seen me smiling as you asked that question, just because it's a question that you and I have, you've asked me and I've answered
Covered
on
this
a few
ground
occasions.
before. Yes.
But I think it's an important question with an interesting answer, because I came into AI as a skeptic, and I think that's probably an understatement. I could probably go as far as saying I used my own personal experiences to say AI is not for me. AI is not for the future. AI can't work. But that all changed. That all changed again, and I know I'm coming across as LifePerson's number one fan here, but it was a meeting with some of the brilliant team from LifePerson where they were not sales pitching, but instead pitching the art of the possible with AI, and it was specifically a video that was played to me. It was a YouTube video, and it was around AI that had been introduced to the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas, but it was AI with a difference, because it wasn't AI, it was a person called Rose, and Rose was like a concierge. She was the clients would check into the hotel, give all of their details. Everything would happen as normal as you would expect when checking into the Cosmopolitan Hotel. They'd arrive into their room or their suite, and they'd receive a text message, and the text message was from Rose. Now, to me, in my mind, the only kind of text message you'd be able to receive would be a marketing message. So super bland, very ordinary, and not much to it. But except what Rose was doing, she was sending hyper-personalized messages that were very individualized to clients in the Cosmopolitan, asking what they were doing for lunch. And so therefore it wasn't come visit our restaurants downstairs for some great food. It was, what are you doing for dinner? So it was encouraging a two-way conversation. And I was fascinated because I didn't understand how on earth technology could be doing something like that. But then also the fact that Rose had a persona. Rose really did come across as a person. Rose was provocative, and provocative is the one key word that always stands out for me. And it was a case where if the partner of the person staying in the hotel had seen the messages, there would have been challenges, there would have been questions. It really did seem like a human to human conversation. So my mind was completely turned on its head. I needed to know how I could have some of that. And, it was, I think it was at that point that AI then became my opportunity to be a global leader in the remote service space, partnering with LifePerson. So my team and I, we've really grabbed hold of the opportunity with both hands. We partnered with, as I said, yourselves at LifePerson, and we created our own bot. We named her Lola. She was originally set up to support messaging journeys with Apple, and again we were pioneers in that space with Apple and LifePerson. It then expanded to messaging on our own messaging platform, and then also into WhatsApp as well. And Lola has gone on to handle hundreds and hundreds of thousands of interactions with clients, and that's not. We went into it with a purpose, and the purpose was, well, how do we elevate the client's experience? And so, first of all, it would be, well, how do you fill that time gap? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, when the computer is popping the message and the client advisor or the associate is then able to pick up the call. So there was data capture, there was time filling. Then the client advisor comes onto the contact, and the information is already there. So it's already starting to be a personalized journey. We had full end-to-end completion by Lola as well that worked fantastically well. But the one call out is, I do think that luxury space is a bit different to perhaps a more high volume retail organization. So the luxury is at the forefront of our minds whenever considering experiences. So the key differentiator that we had throughout the experience was ensuring that there was always the opportunity for the client to break out to a client advisor, rather than getting into that never-ending rut and cycle of, the computer isn't understanding me, I am getting more and more frustrated, I'm going to hang up the contact and then go to a competitor. So it was always a key differentiator that we had the opportunity to break out to a human, and our net promoter score increased, our effectiveness and our efficiency increased, our revenue generation increased. So, all told, Lola was a huge success for us.
I love it. So I appreciate what you've shared on so many levels. What we find is that the conflict between the cost savings benefits of automation and the customer experience, that conflict is often something that all brands struggle to reconcile. But as you mentioned, you work in the luxury space. And so the driver is primarily about the customer experience. It sounds like this video, which, I have to plug the Live Person marketing team. This was a video that they created, but it sort of planted in you this seed that, the two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. And in fact, AI can actually lead to a better, more personalized, more meaningful, more effective customer experience, even for a luxury brand. Maybe talk a little bit more about that. What are the expectations of a luxury customer that, that the AI can help to facilitate? You said, having access to a live person, that's something that you need to preserve. But how did Lola, or even how you think about it at Tiffany, how does automation and AI help to preserve that luxury experience?
Sure. So, I've had, I think it's over 20 years experience working with ultra high net worth individuals, and I have to say that they are all different. However, generally tend to find, although they might be cash rich, they are time poor. I think that's the one consistent across that group. But for me, when starting out with AI, the first point is that it's got to be personalized. I think. Sorry, I'm going to go back again. I think even before that, there's got to be a reason for it. So often I feel that because AI is generally relatively new, it ends up being a vanity exercise. And I know that it's, kind of when we dabbled in Apple Business Chat, as it was way back when, it did feel like more of a vanity exercise. I wanted to be one of the first brands to deliver it. However, it did then go on to power hundreds of thousands of messages, so it was very logical. But when it comes to AI, I believe that the general public is still very, very skeptical. So there's got to be a real reason for why you want it. So is it because of the experience? Is it for productivity, or is it for something else? And as I was saying, I think that lots of people are hung up with AI. I don't think many people at all understand even what AI is. I think many people do pretend they know what it is, but AI is such a broad, sweeping generalization. I mean, AI is your out of office reply. When we've been using it for years, it is a form of automation.
Yeah, I like to say that you really don't want an AI strategy. What you want is a business strategy that is, in some ways powered by AI. You want to leverage AI to achieve your business outcomes. To your point, you don't want to be rolling out AI for the sake of doing it or for some sort of check the box exercise. If you're not starting with the problems that you're solving for your customers or your brand, then there's almost no point in doing it. It sounds like that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. So absolutely. So as I was saying at the top of the question, it's our clients are cash rich, time poor. So the immediate starting point, as I said, it needs to be personalized. But in addition to the personalization, it would be, well, okay, how do we save time? And it doesn't have to be this huge end-to-end journey, with 1,000 different touch points and 100,000 different considerations. It can be, how do we save our clients some time? How do we not make the interaction sound robotic? And I think that data capture is just a huge win. So why are you contacting us today? How can we help you today? The information is typed in, and then of course the criticality on our parts is then don't pick up the message and ask all of the same questions all over again. And I'm sure that we've all experienced that so many times. So I think another advancement that we're going to see is with dynamic routing as well. The client comes in, they ask their question. Yes, data capture is important, but then what is the next best action after that? And the next best action has got to be ensuring that that specific client is then going to match up with a very specific client advisor on our side. AI, the reason why you have Generation AI podcast is because AI is here to stay and it's fascinating. And the more that I speak about it, the more the ideas come into my mind with what you can do, but always to the benefit of the clients. And I think, whether that's ensuring they speak to the right people, saving their time, or even doing the full end-to-end journey because they just only have a couple of minutes of spare time, there's always an outcome that's relevant and appropriate for our clients.
Yeah. That's a good segue, Darren. You mentioned, routing to the right specialist. I want to talk about the humans in the loop here because I think you would agree with me that humans are still pretty critical to a great customer service experience. AI is not taking away their jobs anytime soon. We feel at LivePerson that AI empowers them to do a better job. Maybe talk about, from the perspective of a luxury brand, how does this technology help your human agents to do a better job and deliver a better experience to customers?
Yeah, that's another great question, Ruth. If we go all the way back to Rose at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas, for a very long time thereafter, in my mind, AI was client facing, and so therefore the hysteria around the world was, it's RoboCop or Terminator. The robots are taking over the world. There'll be no jobs for humans. There'll be mass unemployment. And again, the hysteria grew and grew and grew. I think early on, we always knew that AI for the contact center, for us especially, was designed to be complementary. Although I can see certainly some avenues where you can just have a full end-to-end automated experience, especially if the AI is trained effectively. But in more recent months, and maybe just this year only, I've really seen the advancements with technology around how it can support the contact center. So one great example here specifically is we have very, very powerful conversations with our clients that will last a long time. We're not a 3 minutes and on to the next call kind of organization. We're very much about cultivating relationships. We want to find as much out about our clients as possible, and we want to deliver the most exceptional experience. Granted, some of those clients want to be very, very quick, but at the same time, we still want to deliver fantastic experiences, and we want to gather as much information as possible. Now, if you think in the traditional sense, you're on a call or on a message and you're listening into the interaction, or you're spending time into the interaction, and then you're perhaps writing lots and lots of notes. You go through all of those notes, you then wrap up the call or the message, you're done with that interaction, and then you're for the call center people amongst us, you go into wrap up, you go into busy, not ready, and you are then ineffective for however long that might be. You might have 5 minutes after the call, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it could even be 30 minutes because you've gathered so much information. You then have to put all of that information into your CRM. So you're essentially doubling your handle time because you want to have the most precise and accurate and appropriate notes in your system. AI is now, and again, this is another area that I've been fascinated with for 20 plus years, and it's call recording. Call recording, once upon a time, used to be military grade hardware available to nobody other than perhaps the CIA and MI6, and then very gradually it's become available to contact centers, right now to the point where all calls are recorded, all messages are recorded, everything is put into text. The text becomes actionable data, and specifically for the example I'm giving, if all of that information is coming into a repository, and then you use ChatGPT to summarize that information that it's been listening to for the last 30 minutes, and then in 3 seconds puts it into your CRM. For me, this is now making the client advisor's job easier. It's taking away their stress. It's improving their morale. It's giving them the opportunity to handle more contacts and more interactions in a day. They have the opportunity to sell more. So AI is such a huge boost to the business from this side rather than just the client side. If you want to talk about it commercially, it reduces cost because you don't need to recruit more people to handle the contacts that are coming in because half of the team are too busy working on their notes. So case summarization for me is a phenomenal piece of technology. It's phenomenal advancements, and I think in the same vein, technology such as Copilot or next best answer, it's that contact center jobs are not easy. I know there's again perhaps a feeling that contact center jobs are easy, but people who work in a contact center have to know everything about their organization, and there's no knowledge base that's as good as knowing everything in the organization. People are expected to handle significant volume of contacts every single day, and every single interaction is a different interaction. So anything that can support them with their journey every day should not be ignored, and it should be championed. And I'm very excited for what's on the horizon now and then what's coming in the future, because I don't think that AI is here to take jobs. I really, really think it's here to boost morale and make people's jobs just that little bit easier.
Obviously, I agree. But in this example that you've shared, even that internal use case of summarization, certainly it makes sense how you've explained it, helps the agent to have a better experience, to have greater efficiency, to be less bogged down with note taking. But it also serves the purpose of gathering more information about your customers in order that you can in the future deliver a more personalized experience, because all of that is predicated on the data that you have about them, to your point about gathering information. So, it's kind of a win-win-win for everyone, the agent, the customer, the business. Yeah. Okay, so I know that we've talked a lot about AI. It can be very daunting. If you had to sum it up, what are some of the big topics that you're handling or considering today around AI? And in particular, I'm interested in understanding how you champion this across the business, because different stakeholders across the business have a different point of view about AI. There are always concerns about privacy, security. There are, disparate use cases and models and vendors across the business. How do you think about it, and how do you drive consensus and collaboration?
Oh, it's
Big question.
that's a huge question. I mean, AI is just so daunting, and there's so much of it, and apparently it feels like it's all at once as well. And every vendor on LinkedIn is shouting and pitching, and it's how many businesses can do the same thing. But apparently there are lots of businesses that,
Every business is an AI business
yeah,
these days, it
for
seems.
sure. So I mean, current journey, I think, is big picture. What do we need and why? What do our clients need and why? And how can AI support that? We're embarked on a journey to support our teams, making their jobs easier, as we just said, because what they do can be challenging, and this in turn delivers. If we get it right, it delivers an elevated experience. And ultimately, in this very, very challenging and competitive world that we live in, there's always got to be something that we need to do that gives us the edge over the competition. So for me, I mean, big topics are still agents and clients experience through efficiency and productivity, and that's everything that we just touched on. So that really is what's big and what's next for me. I mean, with regards to consensus, I mean, I'm lucky where I work. We have an incredibly supportive network of key stakeholders, and they're all championing the effectiveness of AI. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. It just means that once you have the appropriate pitch and you're partnered with the appropriate organization, you've then, as I said, we've got that group of very key stakeholders who are very interested in supporting, but it has always got to be as I said, it's got to be not for vanity. It's got to be for the right reasons, because it's going to be valuable for the organization and for our clients. I mean, with regards to, I think, what's next further down the line, during my career at Burberry, I was very lucky to do a lot of travel around Asia, specifically Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, Korea, and China. And during that time, I always found that whatever I would witness there from a technological standpoint, a few years later, you would then see it in the West. So I think there's actually an easier way of predicting what will come our way by looking at what's happening in the majority of Asian countries. I think that Kakao and Line and Weibo, WeChat are probably some of the messaging and social channels we should be looking at. Certainly, some of those channels have had payment platforms in them for quite some time. But the one specific call out, and I don't know that we're there yet, and personally, I don't like using them. And it's voice notes. I just wonder what's in voice notes for the future. I really think that that's sitting in a taxi in Japan or Korea, the drivers have got multiple mobile devices around them, and everything is done with a voice note. And I just wonder what that looks like from a commerce capacity and how we can capitalize that and really utilize that to our best ability. Where AI comes into that, then of course need to be some voice generation as well, but it's something that we shouldn't be excluding and something that we should start thinking about now, because again, you go back to clients that don't have a lot of time. They want to, in an asynchronous way, pick something up, put it down, pick it up later, put it down, and so on. And I just think that voice notes fits into that quite nicely. As I said, I'm not a fan at the moment from a personal perspective, but maybe that's something that's coming our way in the not too distant future.
I find myself using voice notes more and more these days. And, so maybe you're clairvoyant. I think that we should have you back in a couple of years and we can revisit the voice note piece. I think you're the first one to call that out on this podcast. Really interesting observation. It makes a lot of sense to me. So we've covered a lot of ground, Darren, but now we're at the most exciting part of the podcast, which is our Hype It or Hate It segment. Our producer is going to put 60 seconds on the clock for each of us to rant. And the rules are that you can be positive or negative. We're pretty low key here. Something about AI or business in general. The only rule that we make you stick to is that you only have 60 seconds to explain why you're so heated about it or loving it this week. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, fantastic. So yes, as Ruth said, I will put 60 seconds on the clock. We're going to start with Ruth, and Ruth will have 60 seconds to hype or hate, whatever she chooses to hype or hate. I will let Ruth know when she has 30 seconds left, and then 10 seconds left, and then when she is at time, at which point, Darren, you will have a chance to respond or build on whatever Ruth has talked about, and then we will flip the script. So, Ruth, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, 60 seconds is on the clock and your time starts now.
Okay, so I've been flying a lot lately, and today I'm going to hate on airline Wi-Fi. And, I guess full disclosure, I'm in Canada, so this may be something particular to Canada because that's where I usually fly in and out of. And I'm not going to call out any airlines specifically or incriminate the one that I fly with the most, but the Wi-Fi, which I often have to pay extra for, even though I have premium status, it never works at all. And I don't understand this from a technical perspective. It should be achievable, should it not, to provide quality Wi-Fi on an airplane? I am pretty sure that this is just that the airline doesn't want to incur the cost, which makes no sense because staying connected today is table stakes. I work on the plane. I need to be accessible. They wouldn't not have bathrooms on an airplane. And offering up choppy, unreliable Wi-Fi for 5 hours or more is unacceptable. And airlines need to reconsider this.
Okay, so my quick comeback to that, just to upset you, Ruth, is first of all, I completely agree with you. But on my most recent trip back to London in August, I bought the 1 hour text messaging only, and then found that I had full Wi-Fi for the entire journey and didn't have to pay any extra money, and it worked perfectly.
Wow. I think it's just a scam all around. I'm going to try that next time because I always buy the premium package thinking that I'm going to be able to actually, edit presentations, and it never works. So, hopefully one day in the near term, we won't have to pay anything and we'll just get what we expect in a restaurant or on a train or, the subways have figured out how to do it here in Toronto. So it makes no sense to me.
Here's hoping.
Awesome. Well, Darren, it is your chance to hype or hate right now. So I'm going to do the same thing and put 60 seconds on the clock. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then I'll call time. And then Ruth will have a chance to respond. So are you ready, Darren?
I am.
All right. Your time starts now.
Great. So I didn't give this question as much thought as Ruth clearly did. So the thing that I want to talk about is I invested in a new phone for the first time in a long time. It's the Apple iPhone 16 Pro, and it comes with Apple automation or Apple Intelligence, sorry. So wanting to be a pioneer in this space, I thought, well, I'm going to put this this piece of technology through its paces, and there's absolutely no way that I will be able to break what Apple has designed, because Apple should be a leading organization in this space. So the way that you engage with, I don't want to say it because it will turn it on, but you speak to the phone, and it should be able to do full end-to-end automation for you. And I'm actually finding that it's really, really struggling right now. I mean, it will send basic text messages for me. It can still serve up information from Google, but it's super, super basic. So I did expect an awful lot more.
There you go. I think, Darren, from my perspective, this is a good example of lots of AI hype and not a lot of AI outcome. I think everyone's talking the talk, and the world has sort of come back down to earth and realized that the promises were maybe a little bit loftier than they should have been. So,
Agreed.
Again, hopefully in a few years' time. I don't have the new iPhone. I did just make a switch from a 14 to a 15, which doesn't have the same automation, although I've seen no difference between the two phones whatsoever. So time will tell. Well, that was great, Darren. Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Maybe just share with our listeners where they can find you if they want to learn more about you or about Tiffany & Company.
Great, Sam. Thank you. So if anybody would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, that is the perfect place. Darren DiGiorgio, DeGiorgio. Super easy to find. And I'd love to hear from you if you have your own questions, if you want to engage in general conversation, or at the very least, just another connection. So thank you so much, Ruth. And I hope that I get the opportunity to chat with some of your listeners in the future.
Awesome. And for those of you listening, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can get it wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate us, review us, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Generation AI,
Automating Better Business,
a show from LivePerson.
Never miss an episode by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. Please give us a rating, leave a comment, and share the episodes you love. Until next time.